Hey there, it's Mackenzie, your host of Winning. We're looking for sponsors for the podcast. If you have a business that you would like to promote to thousands of people, send us an email at podcastwinning@gmail.com or send us a message on social media. I cannot wait to hear from you. Now on to the show.
Winning is your guide to making it in business. Join our award-winning host and entrepreneur, Mackenzie Kilshaw, and special guests in casual conversations that will educate and inspire you on your business journey. Winning will help you learn the hard lessons the easy way with guidance from celebrated entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's fun. It's informative. It's winning.
Hello and welcome to Winning, the podcast for entrepreneurs. I am Mackenzie Kilshaw, your host, and I'm so excited. It's our first episode. We've been trying to record this for, 2 weeks now, and things kept coming up, but we're doing it tonight. We had internet problems. We're doing it, and I'm super pumped to introduce my very first guest, Barry Firby. Hi, Barry.
Hello, Mackenzie.
How are you today?
I'm darn good. It's a Monday afternoon. I'm sitting in my house at Kenaston, Saskatchewan, and enjoying the fall weather and enjoying my retirement.
Awesome. So you are retired, as you said, but I want to get to know you a little bit and have our listeners know who you are and where you came from. And I know that you do have an entrepreneurial background. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your past work and before you retired, what kept you busy?
Well, I'm a Saskatchewan boy. I was born on a farm, on the family farm, and which is still going. My son and now my grandson are fifth generation farmers in Saskatchewan. And so that was my primary occupation. And, some people say, well, farming isn't an entrepreneurial job. Far from the truth. It really is, because there's a lot of risks to be taken in farms. There's a lot of business decisions to be made, and it was my livelihood for the most part. But I did get involved in a lot of other sub careers kind of thing. And always been an entrepreneur, and had kind of some side businesses that took up a lot of my time as well.
So when you had these side businesses, I know that a lot of it started in the 1970s and 80s. Was that really weird? Was that a strange thing to be an entrepreneur then?
Well, it was, because a lot of farmers in that era, that's all they did. Now, some people would have some side jobs. There were some people that worked in the oil patch in the wintertime. And I always loved, I have huge love for sports. And when satellite television first emerged in the late 70s, it really intrigued me. And before long I was a dealer selling satellite televisions, the big old dishes that, the 8-foot dishes that people saw in those days. You don't see them anymore. But I started, got a dealership, and I started selling and installing them, and it was a way for me to be able to provide television. And, of course, on the farm, you didn't have an opportunity to have cable TV, so it was an opportunity for me to have to make a little bit of money and have my ability to watch my sports on TV.
That's cool. And I think we should let our listeners in on a little secret, because you're actually my dad. So I remember those days of you going and setting up those gigantic satellite dishes and tagging along and helping run wires and do all that fun stuff, and really thinking, nobody else is doing this on a Saturday afternoon except for me. But the ability that gave you to have that extra money and whatnot. I mean, we went on family holidays and we got to experience some really awesome things that as a kid, we built those memories. And I think my appreciation for that really started when I was a child. And
Well,
so
certainly, and
thanks, Dad, for that.
no problem. And you have a brother and a sister who are also very much entrepreneurs. And I've your mother who has passed on, and I, really tried to nurture you and guide you. And in fact, I was business partners with all three of my children as they entered the business world.
Yeah, Dad. And honestly, this is part of why I've started this podcast, because I asked you all the questions because you had a lot of the answers. And if you didn't, I asked my brother or sister or a friend that had a business. But I found that a lot of things I was wondering, even if I Googled it, I didn't really get an answer. And so I came to you. So here we are with the podcast, episode 1. You're my guest. I think what we're going to do here is flip the script a little bit. And we're going to have you ask me some of those questions so that our listeners can figure out who the heck is Mackenzie Kilshaw and why is she telling me about being an entrepreneur? And then I'm going to get you to answer some of the questions too, because I think it's really interesting. Like we said, in the 80s, there was not a lot of entrepreneurs. There was lots of business owners, but not people that were, I'm going to start selling satellite dishes, and how you did that. So let's just kind of flip the script and let people know a little bit about myself, but also have you chat too, because it's really important, and it's important to my story about how I became an entrepreneur. As you said, it started when we were kids. So why don't you go ahead and take the reins here on this, and we'll get going.
Okay, this is my first podcast, and I can tell you that my technology skills are pretty limited. So you've guided me through this, and I'm pretty excited about today as well. I know a lot of your background, but why don't you share with people how you got into first of all the business community, some of the things that you did in marketing, some of your education, and where we progressed in steps with your career.
Yeah, for sure. So same as you, shocking, you're my dad, but I was born and raised on a farm in small town Saskatchewan. And so when I graduated from grade 12, the only thing you did was move to the big city and either get a job or go to university or college. So I decided that I was going to be an accountant, and I went to the College of Commerce at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon. And I took my very first accounting class and thought, oh my gosh, I cannot do this for a job. So I really realized that I loved marketing and the human resources classes. And so I did a double major at the U of S, and I did marketing and human resources, and I loved them. School wasn't really hard for me because I really enjoyed those classes. And I think my personality, being outgoing, and I was telling a friend the other day, every report card said that I talked too much and that I had, couldn't keep my ideas to myself. I think that was the beginning of an entrepreneur, really, because now that's really serving me well. Maybe not in grade 3 when I talked in class, but sorry about that, teacher. But yeah, so I took the marketing and human resource program, and I got a job. My very first job out of university was sales, and I sold makeup, which was really fun because I was a 20-year-old something woman and I love makeup. And then I moved on to working at our telephone company at SaskTel. And I had probably the hardest job you could have. I cold called people and tried to sell them internet and television service. And when you cold call people, you usually get a lot of hangups. And I was fortunate that I didn't get a lot of the hangups. I got a lot of sales. So I knew sales were really something that I was good at, and I liked it. And I progressed through SaskTel. I moved on to work for a food company and I sold candy products. Once again, had a lot of fun. I was selling chocolate bars for a living. And I sold millions of dollars of chocolate bars. I dealt with huge accounts like Walmart, Superstore, Federated Co-op, Shoppers Drug Mart. And I really enjoyed that job. It was fun. I traveled a lot. I got to meet a lot of really cool people and I enjoyed it. But it wasn't ever my dream or my passion. I mean, selling a chocolate bar, you don't really dream about that. So I knew that there was something else for me, but I wasn't really sure what that was. And then I had a light bulb moment when I went to the Oprah Winfrey show. So she actually came. She was on tour. She came to our city in Saskatoon. And Oprah said, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you love it, it's not work. And I was cha-ching, like that light bulb went off in my head because I knew she was right. And I thought, I have to do something that I love doing so that for the rest of my life, I don't have to go to work. I can do something that I really enjoy and really love. And what is that thing? And I remember telling you, Dad, that I wanted to open a clothing store because I love shopping. And I think you were like, well, how are you going to make money shopping? That seems crazy. But I knew that there was a space in our city that we needed a higher end clothing store. We had a few, but we didn't have a lot. And our province was growing and we had more disposable money. And I thought, I can take my schooling background, my university degree, along with my sales experience that I had, because by then I had well over 10 years of sales, and I can put those together and I can start my own business. And so I opened a clothing store in Saskatoon called 252 Boutique, and that was in 2014. So I actually started the process in 2013, and it took me almost a year until I opened the doors. And that was my dream. I literally shopped with women all day long, every day. And it was fun. And it was hard. It was really hard. And luckily, I did have you to go to. And I did develop a huge network of people that I could ask questions. And I could bounce ideas off of. And I could take a problem to and say, has this ever happened in your business? What did you do? And that community really helped me along the way. Huge. So that's kind of where I started. My very first year of being open, I won two very big awards in our city. So I won new business and customer service. And customer service was so important to me because I knew that if I had a place that people came and they had the experience and enjoyed the experience, that they'd come back. So that was really important to me. New business venture, winning that award, I was shocked. I mean, I was shocked to win both, but I was so shocked because I thought, how on earth could I win an award for a new business when I just started? I felt like I hadn't really done anything yet. And honestly, not failing in the first year felt like the biggest success. So then to win this award was just incredible for me. So I went on to win more awards. Yeah. Well, thanks to you, Dad. You really helped me. And I really want this podcast to be something that people can listen to and get that inspiration and get that education, because a lot of people don't have a Barry in their life to help them out, right?
A huge thank you to our sponsor, Just For You Day Spa and Wellness. Just For You is Canada's premier day spa with 5 locations in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The award-winning luxury spa features Leah Reese cosmetics and iconic Betty jewelry that you can also purchase online. Visit www.justforyoudaySpa.com to book your service or to purchase a gift card.
Well, certainly when you do have somebody that has had, you can't beat life experience. I mean, that's simple.
That's right.
And it's not always easy. And I watched you develop as a businesswoman in the community, as a community leader, not just for the purpose of the store, but being involved in a lot of different charities, etc. in Saskatoon, and blood donor people, or a lot of the boards that you served on. You currently serve on the Saskatchewan Rough Rider Board. I mean, it's a really, really big thing. I'm so proud of you, and obviously you always dreamed of doing something in a career, and 252 served that purpose.
Yeah, that's right. And let's be serious. At the beginning, I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, like I said, if I could pay the bills and I could stay open, that to me was success, because I knew that most businesses that open did not survive past a year. And every day I lived that, because you don't know what tomorrow brings, right? So you have to hustle and work hard to get those people in the door, and to have people have a great experience, to come back, to tell their friends, and get involved in the community. And the community involvement for me started out as a way to network and as a way to let people know about my store. But it progressed so far by that, where I did it because it was the right thing to do and the thing that made you feel good, right? You serve on these boards and you go to events and you invest your time, you volunteer your time, you donate maybe an item or you donate some money. It goes so far in the community. And I think small business and local business, that's why you invest in those businesses. That's why you spend your dollars there, because those people are giving back. And I'm not saying that the big companies don't, but it's much different. It's just such a different hands-on experience when you're a local business.
Well, certainly, and I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but small business across Canada, business that has 10 or fewer employees, is really the engine that drives our economy. And the big box stores have been a blessing and a curse at the same time. And I know it's not easy for young people to get into the business community, and I know that you would be fantastic in being able to provide some of that wisdom that you only gain through experience. And I know that there was lots of ups and downs kind of thing. And, I don't know if you want to share any of those today or, in future podcasts, but there's, you can really, really be a help to young people, wanting to get involved.
Yeah. And I think, one of the questions that I have here is, did you have a major turning point in your career? And I mean, I think when I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur, that was obviously the first major turning point. But the second thing for me is 2020, COVID hitting. So that was such a big turning point in my career and life, because I had to close. I had to close my store, and I was scared, because you don't know how you're going to pay your rent. How are you going to survive? I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a steady paycheck. You hopefully get to that point where you pay yourself, so much every month or 2 weeks or whatever you do. But when you first start out, you get to pay yourself what's ever left over. And hopefully that's enough for your bills. And it might not be. You might have to live on visa for a while. But the COVID year was scarier than my first year, because there were so many unknowns. And the first year I was open, when I was just so happy to just stay open after that first year, honestly, I didn't know any different. But I got to the point where I was selling a lot of dollars of clothing and accessories, and I kind of had an idea of how much money I was going to have. And then it just stopped. Literally one day it just stopped. And, before they announced, I was so fortunate to get some of the government funding. And when I was able to reopen, I got help to pay employees and whatnot. So thank God for that, really. Like, thank the government for that. But there was a really scary few months, and I worked harder in those, I guess, 2.5 months that I was closed than I ever worked before because I had to hustle. And I redid an online store. I changed platforms. I did free delivery. I drove around our city. I did free mailing, free drop off. I put together packages for Easter baskets, and I did all of these things that I had to come up with to survive. So that was hard. And that was a real turning point for me that year because I also got married. And lucky for me, my husband lived 3 hours away. So I had a store. I had actually 2 locations by then because I did expand, which I think is that's for another episode. But I had 2 stores and a husband in a third city. So I lived in my car driving around, to make sure that all of those places were good, right? And that was a huge turning point in my career because I knew I had to change. That couldn't stay the same for a long period of time. For a short time, it was okay. But I knew that there would be a point that I would face burnout or failure, major failure, right, in one of those places. And I didn't want that to happen. So that was probably the second major turning point for me because I realized I had to really pivot and make some changes and some big changes in order to keep surviving too. So that was huge for me. And I think
I can certainly I can relate to that in my own life. When the big satellite dishes, I think I probably sold and installed, well over 100 in the in the communities around my home. But all of a sudden, the big dishes went out of style, and the little dishes came in, and so I adapted to that. But the little dishes were all of a sudden were available for people to buy off the shelf in the big box stores, and really it was they didn't need to have a professional to install them. So all of a sudden, a business that I had nurtured for probably half a dozen years, kind of dried up as well, and so the little dishes were handy. They were nice and clean. Everything else, so that business opportunity kind of went by the wayside as well. Of course, my love of sport got me interested in something else, and that's something that I'm very proud of. In the mid '80s, I and some of my friends and my brother-in-law Don, we established a sports pool called Super Draft, a hockey pool. It became world famous, and in fact, it's still operating today out of Kenaston. And it was an entrepreneurial adventure that we took on. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Toronto and meet with Don Cherry on the Grapevine television show, and Ken Mackenzie of the Hockey News, and we got established nationally before there was really anybody else in the marketplace. So that was kind of a turning point in I guess my career as well. And I was chair of Super Draft for 15 years. And at the same time, then about that time, I got involved in consulting. Started a company called Firby Marketing, and got involved in consulting, fundraising, and actually got involved in politics, which is a whole nother career that I pursued until just recently. So I think the lesson to be learned is that you always have to be ready for for change, and never be afraid of taking on something new.
Dad, you're so right, because change and pivoting, as I say, right? Just changing your direction is so necessary. You cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expect good results, right? And sometimes you have to change. COVID happened. I didn't have a choice. I mean, I had to do it to survive. Sometimes when you're proactive and you can see, I remember when you have the satellite dishes and you're like, we're going to put internet into people's houses, and we still had dial-up internet then. And thinking like, oh, okay, good luck with that, because now the internet, we have it on our phones, right? It's crazy to think now that you changed to that before it got to be that there's high-speed internet almost everywhere. So it's so important, right? You need to change. And that's such a great lesson to share with people, that you can't just have an idea and say, this is my idea, this is what I'm going to do, and just go down that road, because there's going to be curves, and there's going to be sharp drop-offs, and there's going to be big hills, but you're also going to get somewhere really great at the end of that road. You just have to work with the landscape you're in. And it's just, I couldn't agree with you more that that's such a huge lesson.
Yes, change is not a normal thing for most people. Most people fear change, and I think once you realize that change is healthy, change is necessary, and when you look at that through the glass half full instead of the glass half empty, you'll find that change brings excitement. And excitement is healthy, and there's always something that you can do better. And I'm not saying changing careers necessarily, but changing within your business structure, and being able to look ahead and be proactive is such an important characteristic to develop.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I mean, you did change. You farmed always. I mean, you still help at the farm, but you changed your career a lot of times, and it served you well because you knew what you were good at, and then you got a job doing it. You made yourself a company, Firby Marketing. I'm going to consult people because I'm good at this and I like doing it, right? So you did that in full careers. I did it in full careers as well, in the sense that I closed my stores. I closed my brick and mortar stores, and I moved to an online platform only. And that was really hard. But I did that so that I could move and live with my husband and stepson, and I could keep my store. It's different now. It's much different, but I could keep it alive and I could keep it thriving.
Certainly. What would you say would be one of the most important lessons that you could share with people today? Just to think for a moment of one thing that was pivotal for you.
I think it's something that you hear a lot, and it's easier said than done, but shockingly, you do not know everything. And it's not even okay. It's really important to ask for help, to ask for support, to ask for whatever you need. I mean, if you're struggling in something in your business, there is help out there. And there are people that are more than willing to, give you advice. You might have to pay for it. I mean, you might have to get a business coach, or you might have to invest 45 minutes of your day and listen to the Winning podcast. But if you don't ask for help and you don't fix the problems, or like we said, pivot or change, you're not going to succeed. You're going to fail, and you might not fail today, but you might fail down the line, and the feeling of failure really sucks. So I think you're best off to get the help when you need it, as opposed to facing that failure. And we all fail. I mean, I failed a billion times, but I also won them 2 billion times, right? So it's okay to have those problems because everybody does. And if you talk to an entrepreneur and they say everything is rainbows and unicorns and life is fantastic all day, every day, they're lying to you. Because I can tell you, there are amazing moments that you are like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I won this award. I can't believe I did this. Can't believe I hit $1 million in sales. I can't believe whatever it is. But you're also going to have days that you think, holy crap, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I going to make it? What the heck do I do? I don't even know what's going on. And those days are fewer than the good days, but they're going to come. So you better be prepared. And I think just having that ability to ask for help is really going to make sure that you do go on that path to success.
Well, wise statement. There's no question. When I think about my own path, through farming, through the satellite business, through Firby marketing, and of course, Firby marketing led me into the political community. And I ended up working deeply in provincial politics. Knowing most of the premiers personally across Canada, working for the Prime Minister of Canada at the time, and actually using some of my practical experience. I served in a war room. A lot of things that I'm very, very proud of, and I would not have been able to get there to do that had I not been bold enough to try some things differently and look at, as I said before, look at the glass half full, just talking to people and working with people. Everything from door knocking at election campaigns. By the way, your mother was the best ever at that. And I know
she loved talking to people. I guess I got that from her.
Yes, you did. And so, those opportunities were fantastic, and I would never have been able to do that had I not been able to nurture the entrepreneurial spirit inside of my heart and my head.
Yeah, that's right. And Dad, you did. I mean, you were doing it when it wasn't a thing to do. And now, when I graduated from high school, I said at the beginning, you either went to school or you got a job. And things are much different now in our 2022. You can start a business. You don't need to go to school or get a job, but you still need to learn these lessons. And you need to take that idea that you have and make it a reality. And you can do it.
COVID, like you said, changed a lot of things. And I mean, there's an increasing number of young people that now have a regular career job and have a side business, or increasingly a lot of people are working from home, on a paying job, but also creating small business just from a home office, and those right. That's a new trend now, and again, if we're able to help those people with some of the lessons that we, in the ups and downs kind of thing, that would be tremendous as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm one of those people now. My store is exclusively online. I'm hosting this podcast to help people to learn these lessons. And I have a full-time day job. I work for a tech company called Salon Scale, which I really love it too. It's not like a job for me. But I'm busy. I have to do a lot of multitasking and a lot of scheduling, a lot of timing. When do I have the time to do the podcast? When am I doing a photo shoot for 252? So my day is, I'm primarily at my day job, right? So I don't do those things during the day. I do them in the evenings and weekends. But I wouldn't change it because I love it. I love having the store. This podcast so far has been really fun. It's a lot of work, but it's been fun and I've really enjoyed it. And just hearing stories like yours, and I know I'm kind of partial because I'm your kid, but a lot of the guests that we're going to have on, they're like you. They're really inspiring, and they left their comfort zone and they, had an idea and they made it a reality. And so I can't wait to share, some of these other stories with the listeners and have them know that you can succeed and there's help here for you. And that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, well, you should be excited about Salon Scale. It's a tremendous company, and I know that you're playing a pivotal role in its development. And again, it's adapting, and it's a new adventure for you. It's going to be tremendously successful, and all of the experience that you've gained from SaskTel, from Hershey's, from 252. Is certainly going to benefit the ownership of Salon Scale. So
yeah, and you know what? They're going to be a guest too. I'm going to have Alicia on because I should mention she's also my friend, but she did that. She had a problem in her business and she created an app to help her, and she's now changing an industry. Like not even just helping a few people out. She's revolutionizing something, and it's really cool. So we'll have her on. She can tell her story because it's fantastic.
Well, and I'm proud of, and I'm certainly proud of the role that you're playing with her as well. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to turn the tables here and ask you one question. Yep. What's the one thing that you maybe wish you had known that you have, you've maybe found out through experience, but that the one thing that if you could have learned earlier in your career would have helped?
You know what's really funny? Like I wrote these questions and I never actually prepared for that question, and I probably should have.
Well, I'll give you a chance to think about it. Let me answer the question on my.
Okay, good question, Dad. You tell me one thing you wish you had known, and then I'll tell you mine.
Well, I wish I would have known more about technology earlier in life. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about technology. I don't have a Twitter account. This is my first podcast, and maybe my last podcast. I don't know.
You got Facebook, Dad, so you're winning there.
Well, I am on Facebook, but honestly, I'm not on a daily basis. It's probably once every couple of weeks I catch up a little bit on it. But I think I do have, I don't know, 1,200 friends or something.
Yeah, crazy. And I have probably not 1,200 friends.
That's one thing for me that would have been if I'd have caught on to that a little bit quicker. Although, I'm in retirement now, so I'm fine getting along, and as you said before, when I'm in trouble, who do I call? I call you, and you get me through it.
You too.
Thank you.
You too, Dad. You're my go-to. I think the one thing I wish I had known was that it will all work out as it should. Because I think a lot of times I opened a second location, and in my head, I did so much research, and in my head, this was going to be the best thing I ever did. And then it was so much work, and it started out so fantastic. I had a great manager, and she was amazing, and I can't say enough good things about her. And she treated the business like her own. But she moved to a different city, and I found other people, and they were good, but it wasn't the same. And it started becoming a lot of work for me, and it was hard. It was hard to juggle 2 stores, and it was hard to have that many employees. And I wish I would have known that whatever was supposed to happen will happen. I can't force it. I can really work hard at things, and I can really, ask for help, and I can do all of this. But at the end of the day, I had to know that if it's failed, that was not the end of the world. And if it succeeded, well, that's great. And honestly, I had a lease, and, I was doing decently there. It wasn't horrific. But then COVID hit, and I had no staff. I had no product because I canceled all my fall orders when COVID hit. Luckily that I was able to. And I thought, what do I do with this business? Basically, it was starting from scratch for me to have that business. And like I said, I had gotten married. My husband lived in another city, a third city. And I knew that I just couldn't reopen that store because it was going to take me down a path of, hard on my finances, hard on my health and my life. And I just knew that I couldn't do it. And that was okay. It wasn't a failure. It was okay that I didn't reopen it. And, I was really fortunate. I had great landlords there. A bridal store took over the space. I really left with no issues. But I wish I had known that it would work out as it should, because I think I had a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out what the heck to do. And yeah, I mean, it all worked out. I moved. I have an online only store. I did all these things in a 1-year time period that if you would have asked me 5 years ago, would you ever close your store? I would have said, never, ever in a million years will that ever happen. And here I am. And I still have an online store, and I still love it. It was that change, and it all worked out.
Yep. And I mean, it's just, I guess the one lesson, from this podcast that people that are listening to us is that you have to be ready for change. Don't fear it. Be ready. Things like COVID will come along and sometimes force you to make changes. Don't be afraid of change. Cherish it. Cherish change. That it's a healthy thing, and it can breed success.
I think that's great advice, Dad. And I think too, knowing that everybody's facing the same thing as you are, it helps you. It makes you feel a little bit better when you're going through a hard time, because I can tell you, every other business owner and every other entrepreneur has gone through a hard time. And so knowing that, right? Just knowing that really helps you. So thank you so much, Fantastic. Dad. I really appreciate you on here. People can find you on Facebook, Barry Firby. He only checks in about every 2 weeks, but if you want to give him a friend request, you can have a conversation with him. And I have 252 Boutique on Instagram and Facebook, of course, which is, like I said, my online exclusive store. If you're in the hair industry, check out Salon Scale, because you need to have that in your business. And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on for my first episode. And I'm glad we finally got to record after many attempts to record. But this has been fantastic, Dad. And I thank you so much for everything, for instilling that entrepreneurship mind in me when I was a little kid and helping me along the way, because I appreciate it. And I probably owe you about $1 billion. So I really hope this podcast succeeds so I can give you that payback.
Well, the important thing is that I love you very much.
I love you too, Pops. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we look forward to our next episode. We're going to be recording more in the next few weeks, and we'll let you know when it's up. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night or day, I guess, if you're listening to this during the day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Winning. Be sure to subscribe to get all of our new episodes. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, and leave a rating and review wherever you listen to Winning. To catch all of the latest from us, you can follow Winning Podcast on Instagram at winning_podcast, Facebook at Winning Podcast, and on Twitter at Winning Pod. Winning was created and is produced by me, Mackenzie Kilshaw. Music created by Summer Firby. Editing by Seth Armstrong. Special thanks to Shauna Foster for voicing our opening. And of course, a huge thank you to this episode's guest. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.